I never know how I'm going to do it. It's always a surprise, even to me, how I'm going to start the episodes. I know I'm going to say hello, ladies and gentlemen, but I don't know from where I go at that point. So that's what you got. Welcome to Blueshirt Bandwidth. I'm your host, Joe Fortunato. I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Eric Cohn. Eric, how are you?
Joe, I'm good. I know you're not a big baseball guy. I've got a quasi-baseball related question for you.
Yeah,
so
it
may be news that you haven't seen. There is a bit of a hockey tie-in to this,
Oh, my God. No, I completely forgot about this.
Okay.
I almost tweeted about it.
Yeah. So if you haven't seen, and by the time that people are listening to this, I'm sure they will have, Tony Clark, who until today, Tuesday, was head of the Major League Baseball Players Association, resigned when it was revealed that he had hired his sister-in-law to work for the Major League Baseball Players Association and was having an affair with his sister-in-law. Now, of course, in hockey world, we call this the Marty Brodeur special. Of course, our favorite Devils goaltender, Uncle Daddy. The question I have for you, Joe, because I've not actually seen this part of it reported yet. So let's take it in the abstract. Which is worse? Is it worse if it's his wife's sister, or is it worse if it's his brother's wife?
It's gotta be worse. You know, that's actually a great question. Now, my initial gut reaction was brother's wife, because you're truly betraying your brother in a way where, like, but as I say that, I'm a man of the cross, Eric, and I do believe that when you wed, you create your own family, and those ties with your significant other are more important than your nuclear family. They become your nuclear family. So you're really kind of to sleep with your wife's sister. First of all, I saw somebody, I think it was Dano on Twitter, who was like, my God, Tony Clark went full Brodeur. That's insane. Immediate. I don't like shit. This was a big thing for me. I used to take a ton of crap. I had no likes on Twitter before it was private. Immediate like for me. You tweet out somebody going full Brodeur, immediate like. I think you're betraying your wife regardless, right? Because you're cheating on her. So the extra betrayal of your brother, I think, makes it worse. I would think that at the very least, you could share blame with the wife's sister. Like, it's kind of worse for her, right? In that instance, if I'm going to blame you for betraying your brother in the other scenario, I feel like, I don't know. It's not good all around. Never go full Brodeur, ever.
Yeah. Never go full Brodeur, but I think you're right with your initial reaction. I think the brother's wife is worse. It may only be by a hair here, but yeah,
you're betraying.
It is, I think,
not that you're not betraying both, but you're betraying your brother and your wife. Like it's bad news bears. Also, he hired her. I would keep that shit so far away from me in every way, shape, and form. You hired her.
This is the same thing with the former coach of Michigan football, Sharon Moore, who not only was having this affair, it was with somebody who worked for the Michigan football program. And somebody, because of course, the University of Michigan is a public university, you can look up salaries of employees of public universities. And this person went from being like, 3 years ago, 65 grand a year. 2 years ago, 65 grand a year. Last year, 95 grand. It was like, okay. Like, how do you get into a position where you're the coach of a recent national championship team? Obviously, it was Harbaugh who was the coach at the time. But you are the coach of a major football program. And it does not occur to you that, like, first of all, don't do that. But if you're going to do that, I don't know, maybe slowly escalate the salary over time if that's really what you're trying to do a solid for that woman. Like, just how do these people do it and just draw this much attention to themselves?
Dude, I don't know. So my knowledge of baseball is remarkably limited. I know that the two sides are likely headed toward a lockout because there's salary cap demands from the ownership side. So when this came
There's
up,
a bunch of things going on, but that's part of it.
when this came up, my initial reaction was, oh, this is like an NHLPA situation in 2004 where it's like, fuck this guy who's running the Players Association. We're done with them. Here we go. Then the news.
It's labor strategy related, but no,
right. And
no,
it's
no, no,
just
no,
like,
no.
oh my God, this is truly
it's a full
special.
Marty Brodeur special. Yeah.
You never go full Brodeur.
Never go
By
full
the way,
Brodeur.
while you're here, single most overrated goaltender in NHL history. I'm not even saying that to troll Devils fans. Just the single most overrated goaltender in NHL history.
You cannot, look, you obviously cannot take the total stats package and all the wins and all of that away from him in the same way that
a great goaltender. Not saying he's not.
You can have an academic argument about Barry Bonds and the role that performance-enhancing drugs played with Barry Bonds in the home run record. But when you look up the home run record, Barry Bonds is the one who possesses it. But you absolutely cannot get away from the New Jersey Devils system and the way that the game was played at that time. I mean, how many games did he face 15 shots on goal?
I think
right?
he has the most.
It's like Marty
shots or
Brodeur.
less
It's like Marty Brodeur for 15 years got to play against the 2025-26 New York Rangers.
Actually, he probably would have had an easier time with these Rangers because nobody would have been smoking cigarettes. That's a great transition. This is Bantering the Blue Shirts. I am your host, Joe.
It is still not. It is Blueshirt Bandwidth.
Why do I keep doing that? I don't know why. This is Blueshirt. I think Blueshirt Bandwidth is a better name too, and I keep doing it. I can't help it.
You keep reverting back to original form.
$85 a year.
Episode 72.
I'm sorry. Oh, well, we're gonna get to all that.
Okay.
$85 a year gets you all your ad-free access to the New York Rangers at blueshirtbanter.com. $40 a year, join our community tier, gets you access to the Discord. You can ask questions in the question thread that will be launched every single week that Eric puts up. He is kind enough to do that. We read some of those questions on the show. Facebook.com/blueshirtbanter, YouTube.com/blueshirtbanter. I am much more cognizant of the way my face looks because I'm now on video. You can also catch us when you're on Spotify on video. So think of these things. Support us, leave 5 stars, leave a nice review, leave a nice comment. We love when you do those types of things. I've also become, if there's a saying in the blogging business, like never read the comments. The amount of people that comment without reading the story is insane. And that's not really a thing on Blue Shirt Banter because you have to pay to be a member of Blue Shirt Banter. But on Facebook, our posts routinely get like 100 comments on it. And it's like, none of you read this story. I recognize none of these names. And if you were reading the story, you were reading it on Blue Shirt Banter and you were commenting on Blue Shirt Banter. The amount of shit that I took on Facebook for my Vincent Trocheck article, which by the way, you could read if you subscribe to Blue Shirt Banter, where people were like, oh, just let the guy have fun. This is the problem. No! You're not allowed to have fun when the team that you play for a fucking day job sucks the way that it sucks because of you. Anyway, those comments happen on Facebook. So you can go on Facebook and you can join them if you're not a member of the website. In addition, youtube.com/blueshirtbanter. Check us out there. You can subscribe to us there. You can do all the things that we want you to do. Just do that, okay? Subscribe to us on Spotify. Subscribe to us on Facebook. Subscribe to us on YouTube. That's it. Then join the website. Join the website first. Let me go backwards. Subscribe to the website, then do the other things. But if you don't want to, because you're afraid that I'm going to become an oil oligarch and I'm going to just run away with your money, you have good instincts to be concerned about that, but you should do it anyway. So just figure it out. As Eric alluded to before, we are at the 72nd episode. I actually think this is quite fitting because this episode is depressing. So this is the Filip Chytil episode.
And concussed?
Yes, this is the Filip Chytil episode. Is he concussed again? I know I saw that. You know it's bad when you get hurt and reporters ask the coach if it's a concussion and he's like, God, I hope not. Like, that's bad.
Yeah. I don't mean to laugh, but
neither do I. I don't mean to be dismissive about this, but like this
if I didn't laugh about it in at least in the way that we're talking about it right now, I would just cry. I mean, we've said this a million times already. I just hope Filip Chytil leads a good and healthy life.
Absolutely.
I really have no more wishes for him other than that. That probably means that he will have to stop playing the sport of hockey pretty soon because it just seems to be that he cannot stay healthy. It really is one of those cases of you see when elite athletes like that, when they have a couple of injuries, you just start seeing similar injuries or more injuries more frequently. And I have to think that it has a lot to do with the way that you handle yourself. Like you're thinking about the possibility of getting hurt in a way that you weren't before. I remember, I think the first time I was really cognizant of that effect was watching Eric Lindros in the late 1990s, where you could just see the way he skated out there was different because he thought that every time that he got hit, he was going to get concussed again and he was going to be out for another season. So it's
Marian
really a
Gaborik.
shame. Or Marian
Before he came
Gaborik.
to the Rangers, had tons of groin injuries, and they didn't let him get it fixed the way that he wanted to. So he skated differently to not have the injury hurt him, and it
Yeah, that seems like
caused
a
more
bad
groin
idea.
injuries. Yeah, it's just like
Yeah.
a bad thing. You
Yeah,
ready
that
for a
seems like a
movie
bad
quote
idea.
from Joe?
Oh, yes. Hit it.
You ready for this one? You weren't expecting this, were you?
No, not at all.
I
Did not bet
return
on
us to Moneyball. Everybody gets told they can't play the game anymore. You might get told when you're 18, you might get told when you're 45, but everybody gets told. I'm paraphrasing. I don't know what the actual quote is, but that's the gist of the quote is
It's pretty close.
You
It's pretty
always
close.
need to be, at some point you will be told you're not playing the fun game anymore, the kids game, I think he calls it.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, we've said this before. There's no need to harp on Chytil, but like, I would hope that if I was in that situation and I couldn't see the forest for the trees, that a close friend would pull me aside and be like, "Hey, you gotta like worry." You know what, Eric? People may have been trying to do that to you and me about Chris Drury for the past year. So, what do we know?
That's a good point that you made there. But yes, Filip
Yes,
Chytil, the only Ranger to wear number 72 from 2018 to 2025. So yes, this is the Filip Chytil episode
Filip Chytil
of
episode.
Blueshirt Bandwidth.
Why don't we bring in Charlie for his report, and then we will move on to the meat of the show, which isn't going to be that meaty, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So yes, the Blueshirt Bandwidth podcast ombudsman report for episode number 71, where of course each week Charlie Vidal will listen to the latest episode of the podcast and correct the record on anything that we got wrong. So we have, kicking it off with Joe's illicit activities. While Joe may deny it, he was in the Caribbean trying to make illegal handshake agreements with underage baseball prospects on behalf of the New York Yankees. Unfortunately, the Philadelphia Phillies beat him to the punch. If you did not see this story, Dan Clark here, there's a tweet embedded in the Ombudsman report. The Phillies have reached a pre-agreement with Venezuelan shortstop David Basabe worth $1.8 million. Joe, David Basabe is 11 years old.
I saw this today too. Wow, this has been a big baseball day for Joe.
Yeah.
It's no wonder these sides are heading for a lockout.
Signing an 11-year-old is wild shit. Absolutely wild shit.
I mean, if it works, listen, to be fair, professional European soccer does this too. And
it's still wild.
It's a little different for sure, but it is a thing that happens and it works there. Like Lionel Messi was playing, actually, if you've never read remember when ESPN used to do those like long form stories? Wright Thompson had a bunch of them that were very the one on Lionel Messi is truly a treasure. And it talks about how Lionel Messi he was taking, I think, human growth hormone or something of that sort for his growth issues, for like height, not steroids. And the team that he was on, the local youth team in Argentina, did not want to pay for it anymore. So they left to go to Barcelona. And it's like the single greatest like error in probably sports history. You'd have to put it up there, right? Not that he would have stayed in that team forever, but could have sold them for a shitload of money, whatever. So it happens, but yeah, I don't understand how an 11-year-old, like, does he even fundamentally understand what he's agreeing to?
You know, I would think you mentioned you were in the Dominican Republic when I honeymooned in the Dominican Republic, and we did a tour of the countryside, and our tour guide, who was a local, mentioned that his son played baseball, was a shortstop. I wrote his name down and was going through boxes about 2 years ago and found the piece of paper that I wrote this kid's name down on, Googled him, and found out that he was in the Colorado Rockies system. So yeah, I mean, like, this is it. The insane part of this tweet too is he says he's part of the 2031 international class. Like, I don't want to think about that. I don't want to think about that at all. I don't want to think about 2031 and people playing baseball in 2031. So we will move on to the next section of the report. Episode 71. Joe said, Mike Rupp turned into a devil's guy when discussing the namesake of episode 71. I'm not sure where Joe got the idea that Rupp was ever primarily a Ranger, considering he played 5 seasons and 289 games with the New Jersey Devils, while appearing in only 68 games over a slightly more than 1 full season with the Rangers.
Can I once again criticize Charlie here? We also said all those things.
We did, yes. I do enjoy Charlie, him correcting you just for the fun of it.
I don't need you. I self-corrected. If I self-correct, I don't need you to fucking come in and try to correct again.
You.
I'm pretty sure it was me. I think I was like, I actually don't even know how long he played on the Rangers.
Now we can
you
go.
Know what? You think about Mike Rupp. I maintain this point. You ask a random hockey observer what their only memory of Mike Rupp is, it's the fucking 2 goals in the outdoor game. Where he was a New York Ranger.
Well, we continue on here. Furthermore, Rupp capped off his rookie season by scoring the 2003 Stanley Cup winning goal in Game 7 against the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim.
Did you know that? Off the top of your head?
I did not remember that, but I also did not think much about Mike Rupp at all.
Well, this is my point. I had no idea that he scored the game-winning goal as a rookie. Good for you, Mike Rupp. Now, knowing that he won a Stanley Cup with the Devils makes it all the more obvious. But
it does, yes. Joe also threw out that Keith Kincaid is a cool story, which unfortunately forces me to once again write about cryptocurrency and NFTs. Well, with the Rangers, Kincaid wore an NFT on his helmet. That's embedded in the story here. You can see it there. And launched an NFT collaboration. If you don't know what an NFT is, then just keep reading and don't waste brain space trying to learn.
Did we ever figure out what that was?
NFTs in general? I'm not talking about
Kincaid now. Just like NFTs, people tried to explain them to me when they were hot, and I never understood what, like, you own the rights. Who's paying you for this? What the fuck are you talking
to a digital
about?
image, but, like, obviously you could just, like, right-click and save the digital image.
Right.
Now, look, similar to people early on, I think we even talked about this last week with cryptocurrency, I understand and the arguments about the underlying technology of the blockchain, about the underlying technology of NFTs, and its possible future application to things like contracts and digital execution of contracts. I understand all of that. Call me when we get to that point. Otherwise, I just don't understand the point of, well, I actually just saw something about this the other day that I think it's Logan Paul or one of the Paul brothers bought like some NFT for $650,000.
Yeah, and it's worth like $5 now.
And it's worth like $115, which still seems like $114 too much. Anyway, 2022 first round. Joe lamented the fact that he missed games 5 and 7 of the 2022 first round series against the Pittsburgh Penguins. In 2022, I, Charlie Hare, lived in Manhattan and had a season subscriber package, so I did not miss games 5 and 7. Instead of talking about the 2026 Rangers, let's remember the good old days when Jacob Trouba was actually contributing to the Rangers in a positive manner. This means that you're going to actually have to read my Ombudsman report and not just listen to Eric read it out. It includes the highlights of game 5 and 7, and you can go check those out.
Charlie, you trying to fight me?
Maybe.
Okay, this is good to know.
Early Apple investor. Eric mentioned that an early Apple investor who sold out for $50,000. He was likely referring to Ronald Wayne. Wayne was the third founder of Apple, alongside Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. Apple was originally structured as a partnership, and Wayne wanted out in order to prevent personal financial liability if things went wrong. Therefore, after 2 weeks, he accepted a total of $2,300 for his 10% of Apple and relinquished any further claims. Today, 10% of Apple would be worth approximately $380 billion.
Wait a minute. $2,300?
Mm-hmm.
What
2
was
weeks
he
after the
about
company
being
was founded?
sued?
I think he was concerned about
What's
his
the benefit
downside
of getting
risk
out
if the
at that-
company went out of money. Have you read this? Have you read the Steve Jobs biography?
No.
I would highly recommend it. It's a really great book, but as with many companies, especially tech companies, no guarantee that it's actually going to go anywhere. And if
No,
you
I don't
saw the
disagree,
kind of
but
infighting,
if it was $2.3 million, now granted this was a long time ago, I get getting out of the game because you at least got paid $2,300. Who the fuck cares? How do you
also
not
put that in
wasn't there
1970 what something money. So that's
congratulations. Who's
yeah,
Phil?
obviously
Actually,
a bad decision, but yeah.
Phil wouldn't know this because he doesn't like the Beatles, but he likes the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Didn't the original drummer of the Beatles like quit the band? Right? Am I
Original
remembering
bass
this
player.
correctly?
Yeah, bass player.
Somebody quit though, right? And then
Yeah.
they replaced him, and then the Beatles became the Beatles. And
Yeah.
music is also not really my thing. If you haven't been able to tell, not that I don't like music,
on.
I just don't have that knowledge base like Phil does about the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Liam Greentree. It was said that Liam Greentree is closer to being an NHLer versus a mystery box pick. As of right now, the Los Angeles Kings are sitting outside of the playoffs and have the 11th worst record in the NHL by points percentage. Here is a list of the 11th overall picks in the NHL draft since the year 2000, including Rangers legend Frederick Schustrom. I'm going to just read these down really quickly. Pavel Vorobiev, Frederick Schustrom, Keith Ballard, Jeff Carter, Lurie Turkinen, Anze Kopitar, Jonathan Bernier, Brandon Sutter, Kyle Beach, Ryan Ellis, Jack Campbell, Duncan Siemens, Philip Forsberg, Samuel Morin, Kevin Fiala, Lawson Krause, Logan Brown, Gabe Velarde, Oliver Wahlstrom, Victor Soderstrom, Yaroslav Askarov, Cole Sillinger, Connor Geeky, Tom Willander, Sam Dickinson, and Benjamin Kindle. So draw your conclusions as to the relative value of the 11th overall pick versus one Liam Greentree.
I just have a quick thought on this. I don't mean to keep interrupting you while you're reading the Ombudsman report. I saw a lot of people make the argument that, like, hey, Drury should have gotten the first round pick from the Kings instead of Greentree for exactly what you just said. The Kings aren't necessarily in a playoff spot. It could be a higher pick. As far as I am aware, it was never offered. And we actually have a question about this. I think it came from Chip. So I don't want to step on his toes. I guess we can read it once you're done with the report and just keep it all, in line. But actually, fuck it. We'll read it right now. So Chip asks, after the Fiala injury, is it safe to say, quote, that's why you don't wait, to everyone who dragged Drury for trading Panarin to the Kings before the break? Now, this is obviously not the case because Panarin wouldn't have been playing in the Olympics. But this is exactly why you shut him down.
That was my first thought, too. Well, my first thought, too, was more of if the Kings lose Kevin Fiala, are they interested in buying Artemi Panarin if they've just lost one of their other major pieces on a team that is struggling to score, right? So it's less about the injury risk to Panarin. I read his question as being about if Fiala gets hurt like he does, are they still interested in buying Panarin at all?
Right. And when you're in that circumstance, and I don't have to go through all the arguments that we made last week, but sometimes it is the smarter move to just take what you can get. Now, Trocheck is a different story. We talked about this. Drury has leverage there. He can do whatever he wants. Like that's a different situation. But yeah, I mean, look, and also not to give Chip too much credit, the guy doesn't know who wore 61 for the New York Rangers. There are plenty of other examples where it would have made more sense to wait. It's just, and I'm not even saying this as a defense of Chris Drury. I don't have any of those left in me. I think at this point, people could talk themselves into anything. If Drury would have waited and not traded Panarin, we'd be talking about how he missed this opportunity to trade him to the Kings. And now, it's just, you can always create the other scenario in your head.
Yeah, it's all non-falsifiable now. So
correct.
Yeah. Joe is mad. Quote, I am mad. Joe Fortunato. Joe is mad, and the fact that Eric is not mad is making Joe madder, which reminds us of this drill tweet. And another thing, I am not mad. Please don't put in the newspaper that I got mad.
See, I know Charlie put that in there to make me mad, and it's not making me mad, Charlie.
Okay. All right, that's good. Ken Campbell.
Mad.
Ken Campbell was one of a plethora of hockey writers who tweeted out a complaint about not being able to interview Liam Greentree regarding his trade to the Rangers. Now, gather round, children, for another piece of Rangers lore. After the Rangers fell behind the Penguins 3-1 in the second round of the 2014 playoffs, Campbell penned an obituary for the team, including suggesting that Rick Nash, who wore, I'm not sure which number for the New York Rangers, would be a better use of that upcoming summer's compliance buyout than eventual buyout victim Brad Richards. Campbell wrote that, quote, "Any team that is down 3-1 to a group as talented and explosive as the Penguins is always in serious trouble. A team down 3-1 whose best player is Matt Zuccarello is basically finished." Go read every word of this article if you never did or if it's been too long, and then go enjoy Martin St. Louis scoring on Mother's Day and the Rangers holding on for dear life against the Penguins in Game 7.
What a great playoff run that was.
Charlie and I actually watched the majority of that playoff run at a bar in Chicago called Racine Plumbing. That was a New York Rangers bar in Lincoln Park, in the Lincoln Park neighborhood. That was just absolutely fantastic. And to be able to, living in Chicago, this is one of the reasons I love Chicago. You can find a bar like this for pretty much any team. The fact that there was a New York Rangers, there's also a Yankees, Giants, and Notre Dame bar. So basically, this place was designed in a laboratory for me. Being able to go and watch with a bunch of other Ranger fans, when I've probably made this point before, growing up in the St. Louis area, never having lived in New York, I rarely get to cheer for my team with other people cheering for my team. That was a just absolutely fantastic experience.
Little Joe Fortunato playoff lore. The only game I did not go to that run to the Stanley Cup final was the Martin St. Louis Mother's Day goal.
Because you were celebrating with your mom.
Yeah, let's go with that.
That's good. Trocheck picture. Vincent Trocheck cozy up with members of the Minnesota Wild as if he's already on that team during the Team USA photos at the Olympics. We include Michael Russo's original tweet reporting that incident, and an irate Ranger fan in response, quote, "Ha ha 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 ha. He can fly home on the Wild team plane."
No,
I
that was
believe
me.
that is somebody named Joe Fortnite. Potential Trocheck return. When discussing a potential return for Vincent Trocheck, Charlie Strammel's name was mentioned as a piece that may be included in a trade with the Minnesota Wild. Strammel isn't exactly a top-tier prospect, with Jay Fresh's model giving him only a 6% chance of making it as a full-time NHLer. Of course, Charlie Strammel will forever be etched in hockey lore for scoring the overtime goal to beat Penn State at the outdoor game played in Beaver Stadium on January 31st against Strammel's Michigan State Spartans. More important to hockey lore than that goal or game is, of course, the chain of events that goal set off, with ended in Gavin McKenna breaking somebody's jaw. And finally, ski jumping penis. Eric, do I really need to explain this? Can you please think of literally anything else to talk about other than ski jumping penis enhancement scandals? Fine, here it goes. There was a mention of a penis enhancing scandal in the ski jumping competition at the 2026 Milan Olympics. Ski jumping suits are required to be form-fitting to the jumper's body, which is 3D scanned in the months leading up to the competition. A larger, quote, genital region during the scan would allow for a slightly larger and looser fitting suit, which would create an effect like a sail catching wind and provide up to 5.8 meters of additional jump length for each 2 centimeters of additional cloth in the suit, according to a scientific journal cited by The Athletic. The World Anti-Doping Agency has not found any indication that this is actually being done, just speculation that it could be done. And that concludes the Ombudsman Report.
Charlie, I think you're trying to rile me up, and this is not
All
going to
that
end
penis
well
talk?
for you. It's, oh yeah, especially large penises. All right. Not a ton of Rangers news, some Olympic stuff. We got a question in already, so that's good. Eric, I have a question for you, actually. In the game against Germany, Kachuk told Leon Draisaitl, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. He was caught on a hot mic. People freaked out about this. I think it's one of the greatest chirps I have ever heard in my life. Where do you stand on this?
No, that's pretty fantastic.
Right? Like, why
and
are
it's
people
also
so angry about this? It's a fucking brilliant line.
it's like it's also pretty tame. Like, it's not as if,
But it
he
cuts deep.
called him something deeply offensive. It's not as if, he used
Brad
even any
Marchand when he told
profanity in
Panarin
there.
something about his family or whatever it was that caused Panarin to
Right.
throw the glove.
Exactly. No, I think it was absolutely hilarious.
Like, this
and
is
and
what
look,
you watch hockey for. What are we doing?
I understand that there are a lot of people out there who just do not like the Tkachuks.
Sure.
And that is for a variety of reasons, some of them having to do with the sport of hockey itself, some of it having to do with things that have nothing really to do with hockey and everything to do with other things going on in the world. But I think you can at least pause to acknowledge that that is just an absolutely great. I mean, for a guy who has beaten his Edmonton Oilers twice in the last two Stanley Cup finals, like you have absolutely bought the currency in order to chirp him like that.
It was
great.
my jaw dropped. It's just such, and the reaction, like the visceral reaction from people. I get hating the Tkachuks too. Trust me. I watched Matthew Tkachuk drag his balls all over the New York Rangers in the 2023 Eastern Conference Final. But sometimes you just got to tip your cap to a master of the craft.
Yeah, I can't bring myself to hate Matthew Tkachuk in that sense, nor can I bring myself to really hate Brady Tkachuk, because I'm pretty sure if you asked him what 2 + 3 was, his answer would be fish. So I cannot really bring myself to hate either of them, especially in the sense of I would absolutely welcome either of them on the Rangers if there were any way of making that happen. So I just can't. I can't hate them for that. And look, that is just such a brilliant, brilliant chirp. And, to time it for the Olympics too, in that sense, we've got Germany, who's just, not really much of a team beyond really Leon Draisaitl and a couple of other players. I guess we can talk a little bit about Team USA and the rest. I think we've got a question about that too. But no, I thought that was hilarious.
Brilliant. A brilliant move if you ask me. All right. So, Eric, let's play another game. I'm going to let you pick, okay? Where do you want the show to start? Do you want to talk about Alexis Lafrenière? Do you want to talk about JT Miller? Do you want to talk about Vincent Trocheck? Which of the three do you want to go?
Oh, boy. Have we arrived at the point where Alexis Lafrenière is the least rage-inducing of the three of those options?
He might be the most depressing, though.
Yeah.
But by all means, where do you want to go? Where do you want to start? You said Lafrenière. Should we just go with Lafrenière?
Yeah, let's go Lafrenière, because you're wound up about Trocheck and I'm wound up about Miller, so let's start on some more
I'm
neutral
pretty
ground.
fucking wound up about Miller. The fact that I've been spot on about all. Well, let's not talk about Miller, Eric. You said you wanted to start with Lafrenière.
Lafrenière. We're starting with Lafrenière.
Could it be more depressing to watch every other first overall pick fucking dominate the Olympics and Lafrenière just be sitting on his couch? Like, as a Lafrenière defender for years, this has been a devastating. You want to talk about devastating for the haters? This has been a devastating year for me. Absolutely heart-wrenching, devastating. I don't even have words. Malcolm Celebrini is doing some of the most some of the most incredible things I have ever seen a human being do. He's what, 18, 19, 20? How old is he?
Like 20, I think.
Well, let's look this up. And then, Charlie, this isn't in the fucking report because we looked it up.
Yeah, you keep going. I'll look it up.
Like, what? He's 19. He doesn't turn 20 until June. And Alexis Lafrenière, this is what we get? I don't even care that Kakko scored 2 goals against Italy. Congratulations. Good for you. Do whatever you want. You're playing well. It's awesome. How is it possible
that was going to be my other point that, yes, you're right about we don't even have the first overall and the second overall pick that we jettisoned. Now, a caveat emptor here coming. actually looking pretty decent in the Olympics. Apparently, international play is really where Capo Caco shines. Again, I don't really have major regrets. Some people deciding to be trolls on Twitter about Capo Caco in the last week notwithstanding, I don't have any major regrets about sending him off elsewhere. But yes, when you go down all the scoring leaders in the Olympics, first overall, first overall, first overall, first overall, first overall, first overall, and the one that is missing is Alexis Lafrenière. And isn't it just the luck of the New York Rangers to just get the dud of the bunch?
It's it's terrible. It's so hard. Like, Jesus, I have seen what you have done for others. Please, please give me Gavin McKenna, please, and make him good, please, please. I'm begging you. What do you need me to do? I will do it. It's such a. I find that I've gotten into the hockey in the Olympics more than I thought I was going to. Um, I still think Bill Guerin built a really stupid team. I think it speaks volumes to where the talent level has risen for Team USA that he can build a really stupid team and leave two incredible elite players off. And I still think it's going to be a game if they run into Canada. But I've gotten a little bit more into it than I thought I was going to. And I don't know. It's like, God, I wish we had anyone in the Olympics that was not like this. We have Miller and Trocheck that we don't even want there. It's just, I
It's
don't
Mika.
know. It's just a depressing. Is it Mika? Do you really give
He
a
is,
shit what Mika does? He may not be on the team next year either.
yeah, I think it's more likely than not he is on the team next
I
year.
agree.
And look,
But does he make you
USA is
feel
running
anything? He
into.
doesn't make me
We
feel
should.
anything.
Well, let me finish here. We should know we're recording on Tuesday night, so by the time you're hearing this, I believe the game between U.S. and Sweden will have happened already. Um, no, I'm not, of course, cheering for Team Sweden or anything. Like I'm happy for Mika, I guess, that he is playing pretty well at the Olympics. But no, there's not a lot of fun to be had here unless you just completely separate yourself from the Rangers element of anything having to do with the Olympics. Because, again, set the Panarin thing aside for a second. The only way that there would be players for the Rangers playing in these Olympics that I would be enthusiastic about would be if there was a Team Russia, which I want to be clear, I'm very much in favor of Russia not being included. And Igor Shesterkin was one of the goaltenders for Team Russia. And if Bill Guerin did the right thing and included Adam Fox, but we don't need to relitigate that again either. So, no, there's just not a lot of fun, Rangers-oriented fun around the Olympics. Do you want to get to there's an Olympic-oriented question about cheering for
I was
Team
just gonna say, I
USA?
was just gonna do that. So Statesboro Blueshirt in CT says, considering the writers' Olympic predictions, are you folks rooting for the USA to win, your prediction to be right, or just fans of some other country? I don't think I did a prediction. Was I away when you did these predictions? Or did I just completely ignore this?
Not everybody did predictions. I think it was just Roberto, Chris, and Chip that
Oh,
did
I was going to say, usually you
predictions
yell
for
at
the
me when I
Olympics.
don't do it. I'm fully rooting for the United States, to be clear.
Yeah.
I'm a United States boy. I did say a couple of weeks ago, if this question is being driven from this way, if you gave me the option of a gold medal against Canada for the United States or the Stanley Cup for the Rangers, I am taking the Stanley Cup and I'm not even thinking about it. But I'm a I'd love for the United States to win. I think it would be great for the game of hockey for the United States and Canada to play in the final, regardless of what the score is. And I do think that's what Gary Bettman and company are rooting for. I'd be a
Mhm.
little surprised if the United States don't make it, but anything can happen. It's literally a one game. You talked about like snorting cocaine in a helicopter, riding a motorcycle. That is
Yeah.
this. The John, I think it's John Bois. Is that how you pronounce his last name? Who had that tweet? He used to write at SB Nation. Now I think he does Secret Base, whatever it is. Um, that's the NHL playoffs with a 7-game series.
In overtime. Yeah.
The NHL playoffs with a 1-game baseball-esque, like, winner moves on, loser goes home. I can't think of a much crazier thing. And anything can happen, I guess, is the point that I'm trying
Team
to
Sweden
make.
is good.
Yeah,
Team
they're very
Sweden
good. I
is
mean,
good, and
Mika's
USA
advantage
is going to have to get through them first.
going against Miller and Trocheck is just gold. It's gold. This whole thing is gold.
Yeah. My answer is that my patriotic side, of course, has me cheering for Team USA. What I thought of immediately when I heard this question is, look, I would rather the United States win the gold medal than for my opinion about the construction of this team to be venerated. However, even if, again, given what you have just described there, right? There's something kind of great that, we love about sports in this context, which is it's one of the reasons that I love the NCAA tournament, right? I believe it was Virginia that was the first team to ever be a number 1 seed in the NCAA men's basketball tournament and to lose. I think it was University
UMBC,
of
wasn't it?
Maryland, UMBC, yeah.
Yeah.
Does anybody believe that, and to borrow the line from Miracle, right? If you played them 99 times, 100 times, they might win 99 of them. Same story, but probably like 999 out of 1,000 for Virginia and UMBC. But that one time they won. You have this great thing in sports where you have these singular games, and there's something about the American ethos that kind of loves that upset culture. The United States beating the Soviet Union in 1980 is a perfect example of this. I think you can hold these things to be true simultaneously. Like the 2006 World Series champions are the St. Louis Cardinals. They were not. They're probably the worst team to ever win the World Series, I would argue. But they still won. That in some
Banners
way
fly
does
forever.
venerate the construction of that team. But you can also point out the obvious flaws that, like, they just got super hot. All of their pitchers were just absolutely delivering at the right time. I think both of these things can be true. That the United States might end up winning a gold medal, and they still would have been a better team if they would have included Jason Robertson and Cole Caulfield over Vincent Trocheck and JT Miller. This is the problem with results-only analysis of sports, where just because, it worked out. I mean, that's no different than the kind of gambler's fallacy of, there's a great New Yorker cartoon of this guy saying, they told me I was crazy. Everybody said it was reckless and it was stupid and it was a terrible idea, but I kept buying those lottery tickets and look at me now. Most people, of course, are not going to win the lottery if they do that. So you need to be process-oriented as well as results-oriented. And the thing that's just going to be annoying about it is if USA wins the gold medal, and again, I hope they do, then people are going to say that this completely validates the choices that Guerin made. And I don't think that that is also necessarily true. I think it would still have been a better team with Cole Caulfield, with Jason Robertson, and yes, with Adam Fox as well. So
Sure.
that's where I am with it. But
If
go Team
I
USA.
if I hit on 20 in blackjack and win, does not mean it was a smart decision to hit
Smart
on 20.
decision. Yeah.
It just means you
Exactly.
won. If I smoke
It worked out
cigarettes for
for you.
40 years and don't get cancer, doesn't mean it was smart for me to smoke cigarettes for 40 years. Like, it's just not, those two things don't exist in the same space like that. So I've been relatively critical of people who I feel like are rooting against Chris Drury just to be right. I will always, always land on the side of, here's my opinion. I think the United States were really dumb to not take Robertson and to not take Adam Fox. I'd rather them win and prove me wrong, quote unquote, than them lose and prove me right, quote unquote. Because here's the other dirty little secret. My opinion doesn't mean shit. Nothing is going to change about United States hockey because of the way that I feel. So
I would not prefer to be right rather than successful. I would rather be in the circumstance where I have to make the argument that I'm glad Team USA was successful, but the team still would have been better with those players. I'd rather be there.
Speaking of, Eric, let's talk about your best friend, Mr. Miller. Looks just fine to me. Seems to be playing pretty hard to me. This is what I was annoyed about, that this was going to happen. Miller's going to play a level or two above where he's played with the New York Rangers. Then the series or whatever, the Olympics is going to end and he's going to go on the IR. And it pisses me the fuck off that this is what we're doing a lot. And we talk about culture problems. I don't know why I'm talking like that. It's really annoying. We talk about culture problems on this team, and Vincent Trocheck, who I am the angriest at. I think I've made that clear. Like, Trocheck's my number one guy. Miller is Eric's number one guy, I think. But I've been pretty defensive of JT Miller, that I think it's unfair to ask for him to change the culture all on his own. Hard to drag everybody in the fight when nobody wants to be in the fight. I was having a conversation with somebody today at work about Mike Sullivan. He was like, when the United States went down 1-0 and then 2-1 to Latvia, it was like, oh shit, like, is it possible that Sullivan's just not a good coach? And he was really being held up by Crosby and Malkin. And then obviously the United States won. And it was like everything kind of calmed down. It was like this initial reaction that he had. And I said to him, it's hard for me to judge anything about the New York Rangers as currently constructed because everything is broken. Everything is broken. It's like walking into a foreclosed house. Everything is fucked. But I have a serious problem with JT Miller looking like a completely different person who cares. Leads me to believe the only thing he gave a shit about was the Olympics once he got hurt and realized that the Rangers weren't going to be very good in November. That sucks. And is another notch on like why does Chris Drury make these long-term decisions right away? Could have let Will Borgen play out a little bit before he got married. That ended up working out okay. Didn't have to name JT Miller a captain after 30 hockey games? Like, you could have waited.
Well, I guess
I know the Sullivan piece here exists.
Well, yeah, there's the Sullivan piece, and there's also it's the players who decide ultimately who is going to be the captain. I guess you could make the point that the general manager could have stepped in and just said, no matter what Mike Sullivan says, and no matter what the players are saying, we're just not naming a captain at this point in time. I could absolutely also understand that if it's the consensus of your newly hired prestige coach and of the rest of the team that wants to name him captain, considering everything that happened with the locker room vis-a-vis Chris Drury next year, that maybe that's not a hill that he wanted to die on. I think I can understand that point there, even if I agree that I don't know that I would have named JT Miller captain, but, that was the choice that was made. I get your point, and I don't want to be completely dismissive of it, that, it's hard to drag people into the fight who don't want to be dragged, but it was not pitched to people as JT Miller will invite people into the fight if they want to go with him. It was, he will drag them into the fight. And he has not been able to do that. The drag part of it implies resistance. It implies a lack of willingness on behalf of those players to get in the fight. I don't know that you can say anything other than he has manifestly been a failure at that, especially when you consider he hasn't been able to drag his own ass into the fight for the Rangers, which is exactly what you're pointing out about the Olympics here. I just can't take the only good thing, the only reason why when he comes back from the Olympics and goes on the IR that I am not going to be fit to be tied about it is I'm just going to be glad that I don't have to watch him dog it on any more plays for the rest of this season. I would rather him just be out of my mind for the remainder of this hockey season and not have to watch him anymore. That's where I'm at with Miller. And I know that you and I are in agreement that we're expecting JT Miller to be better next year.
I was going to bring
this
up,
fully
so I'm glad
healthy.
you did.
Yeah, I agree with that. The only thing that I have to add as somewhat of a caveat is, we're talking about then a 33-year-old National Hockey League player. And while I think the majority of this year, his decline is a combination of injury and the team being terrible, this is the point where you do have to worry about decline for the player. So while I think he will be better, I think the ceiling is going to start coming down on what he can actually achieve. So I am not out on Miller because of those factors. I am just so entirely out on Miller because I'm so entirely unimpressed with what he was sold to be and what he has allowed himself to be sold to be with this team, and his absolute failure to deliver on it. At least if he was dragging his own ass into the fight on a game in, game out basis, I would feel a little bit better about that, even if it's like, if it literally is just the kind of situation where he's going in the locker room going like, I'm dying out there on a groin that is like ripped off of the bone. Why aren't you guys out there with me? I would feel a little differently about that, but he's not holding up his part of it from a play perspective. So I'm just so unbelievably out on it.
Yeah, I think the major difference, I give a lot more credence internally to, I think Miller is hurt this year. I think he's going to be better next year, and I'm forgiving some of the sins. I don't think Miller built himself as anything, to be honest with you, to get dragged here. It's not like he went through an interview process. Like, Chris Drury obviously knew what he wanted and went out and got him. The Trocheck piece is harder for me because I'm looking at a guy who was here last year, who was part of the problem, who's here this year, certainly doesn't seem like he's part of the solution again, and then feels like it's okay for him to go around and joke that he's joining the Wild team plane. By the way, all you people on Facebook, I don't give a shit. Like, I am actually blown away that some of you who get so goddamn angry, like the Venn diagram, the overlap of people who were yelling at me like, what, guys can't have fun anymore? And like, why don't the Rangers employ more of Matt Rempe so that they can hit and fight people? Like, it's the same guy. And I just don't understand how I've kind of been thinking about where we may have gone wrong with Chris Drury. And like, now you and I have these concerns and we're no longer defending him. And look, I'm on the ship until he fucks up the Trocheck trade because I have to be, because for my own integrity, that's where I said I was drawing the line in the sand. That is where I'm drawing the line in the sand. I will happily eat crow and be wrong about all of this, once that situation happens. But I think the part of this that like maybe was tricking me is I always felt like the Drury hatred let the players off the hook for last year. And I couldn't wrap my head around that. And I still find myself there now. Like, there have to be punishments for this. There just do. There have to be consequences for the New York Rangers being this bad. And one of the things that I find truly astonishing is, while Vincent Trocheck thinks it's cute to go take a photo with the Minnesota Wild, while JT Miller is playing at a level or two above where he was playing with the New York Rangers, Chris Drury is just there with these guys. I just can't wrap my head around any of this. And I don't understand how, like, for where the Rangers are as an organization, this is not, and maybe it is internally, like maybe we're going to see some crazy shit go down once the Olympics are over. But Eric, if I said to you, I need you to pick the one guy this year, if I had to make you pick anyone who truly dragged the team into the fight, who would you pick?
Sam Carrick.
Sam Carrick. It's the only answer. So a bargain bin, and I don't mean this insulting to Sam Carrick.
No.
I think Sam Carrick is great.
Sam Carrick can play on my hockey team
any day of the week. A bargain bin fourth line player is the only guy that you and I can name who truly goes out of his way to do all the leadership shit that we expect from JT Miller, from Vincent Trocheck, from, at the time, Jacob Trouba, from Chris Kreider, all these things. Although Kreider's at the bottom of my list there. I don't blame him as much as others. And it's Sam Carrick. And on one hand, historically, I've looked at that and been like, this is the players. But on another hand, as I'm being awakened to this, God damn it, that is the culture that Chris Drury has built.
Yeah, I think.
And there's just no getting around that.
I think that there is, because I've been thinking about this as well. And as I said last week, and I appreciated Phil excerpting it in his Media Bites column that came out on Sunday, my point about, the forest and the trees with all of Chris Drury's trade actions, or at least a large number of the transactions that he has made, that the sum of the parts seems a lot less than each of the individual ones when you look at them individually. I think that there is something of a thermostatic response going on here, at least in my own mind. I won't speak for you, but you tell me if that this seems kind of to register with you, and I think it will based on what you just said. I cannot get over the point you just made about how much people seem to just want to let the players off the hook here for last year all the way up through now. And let's stipulate for the sake of argument here that the text message, the memo from last year, all of that, all handled terribly by Chris Drury. I'll stipulate that for the sake of argument. I'll even stipulate in the sense that, like, I'm very much coming around to, that just being fulsome in agreement with that take. The players still have agency. The players can still decide how they deal with that circumstance. And I just have, like, look, I don't know, Joe, if you have ever worked for, like, a terrible boss. I have had terrible bosses in my career. You don't often get to control those things. You don't get to control who they are and how they act. You get to control your response to it. Now, your response may just be to leave. Everybody has the right of voice and everybody has the right of exit. So if people really just were like, I just want out, like, I just cannot handle this, I don't want to deal with this, I just want out, okay. But most people in those circumstances, what you have to do is you have to find a way to work with those people. You have to find a way to manage up. You have to find a way to exist within that environment. You control your response to it. And I just have no respect at all for the way that the players responded to it. And it boggles my mind the extent to which people have just let the players off the hook for their role in all of it. And the thermostatic response is, it caused me to dig in even more and more on the defense of Chris Drury's side. Now, I think where you and I are coming to is some of that, perhaps even much or most of that, may be unwarranted. I think the role that Drury has played in creating this problem, we have underestimated and undersold. But I do not want to lose the role that the players also had in bringing us to this point. And I think the detente that we need to reach with the critics out there of us who think that, we're just defending the company line and Chris Drury, which of course is never what we have been doing.
So there's no company line. We have no relationship with the Rangers in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, exactly. I'm aware that they just absolutely love Blueshirt banter and always have. Isn't that true? So all I'm going to say is that, like, I am willing to acknowledge where I may have been wrong and increasingly thinking that I was wrong. But I need you all to acknowledge the role the players played in all of this, that this wasn't just something that was visited upon them, that they had a role in all of this, that they had agency in all of this, that they made choices in how they responded to those circumstances, to those decisions from management, and that those choices were bad ones that helped create the absolute dumpster fire that we are now currently watching. I think that is what has been going on, and I would admit that it in many ways caused me to dig in on something that I now think I might very well be completely wrong about. I've said the same thing as you about the Trocheck trade. I am waiting for that, is essentially to cast my final vote on all of this. But I just continue to be absolutely baffled by the people who just want to ascribe no culpability, no responsibility, no agency to the players in what has transpired here.
Yeah, the thing I keep coming back to, and I know we've talked about this at length, is when Chris Drury made the decision to send out the memo 2 years ago, the Rangers were 12-4. And one of the things that I was saying to myself was, like, most general managers would have just let this team kind of wallow, gotten their way through. Like, Drury was correct to make the assumption
They would
that
at least let it
Rangers,
ride for a little
right,
while.
the Rangers were not good enough. He was correct to make that assertion. And I think there's been so much bad rather than good at this point, or at least acceptable, maybe, rather than like whatever it is, that I now need to be proven right rather than I think I need to be proven wrong. And some of the things that are happening in Milan are not doing anything to tell me that I'm being proven wrong. I just don't understand some of this. And I get it. JT Miller, Vincent Trocheck, to a lesser extent, Mika Zibanejad. Like, these guys, they have an opportunity to do something. The NHL has not been in the Olympics for a really long time. It's a special moment for them. I understand that. It's very difficult for me to step back from what is happening at home and watch these guys get this opportunity to do something really cool. Like, their names would be etched in like NHL history to beat Canada in the gold medal game.
It would be the first gold medal for the United States since 80.
Right. And you know, on one hand, as a United States citizen, hell yeah, that's awesome. Like, beat Canada as many times as you can, by all means. I have no issues with that whatsoever. From a New York Rangers perspective, it's also like, but shit, like, then if Trocheck even plays another game for the New York Rangers, I got to watch these guys half-ass their way through that nonsense. Hard for me to separate the two of those things. So I'm sure we're not the only ones who have these complicated feelings about the situation, but it's hard. I have a really difficult time just kind of viewing this in the lens of like, hey, these guys are doing something special. They have the opportunity to do something special. It's really cool.
It's
I'm much
tainted.
more angry. Yes, I'm much more angry about what's going on, with the New York Rangers. Now, I'll also add, if you're a St. Louis Blues fan or, a Montreal, well, you wouldn't be a Montreal Canadiens fan, a New Jersey Devils fan, whatever, I understand you not giving a shit whatsoever. One of the things that I think got lost in translation with my Vincent Trocheck piece was like, I even said this on the show. If I weren't a Rangers fan, I probably would have thought it was really funny. But I am a Rangers fan. I don't find it funny. I think he should give a shit about the team that he's going to be leaving. Like, you're part of the reason it's a mess.
I make this point to my daughter frequently, but it's, as I've mentioned before, my background is in marketing. And to me, the essence of marketing is delivering the right message at the right time to the right audience in order to get them to act in the way that you desire. And what Trocheck did there, again, could be the right message or could be the right thing at the right time. It was just the wrong time. Like, you just cannot. If you're a Rangers fan watching that, it's like, I don't know how you look at that and go like, basically he's mocking you. That's what he's doing. He's mocking you with all of that. It's like, oh, I'm already off the team. Har, har, har. Like, if again, this is where the thermostatic thing comes back. Like, if you are just so motivated by, like, you have been early on the anti-Drury train and you just want to be venerated with that, and the fact that Vincent Trocheck is acting like he's clowning on you, and you're sitting there putting the clown nose on in order to help him because your priority is your hatred of Chris Drury. I mean, again, that is still not where I am. I just think that was just, again, guys can have fun, but not exactly the environment right now if you are a member of the Rangers, where that thing, I think, is going to play well. And it kind of surprises me that it played as well as it did for as many people as it did. It really does.
Can I even go a step further for that? I never got the sense that he was doing it to clown on the Rangers. When my argument about it was not that he was basically pointing at Rangers fans like, I'm fucking getting out of here, see ya. I think it was the message he was sending. I don't think it's what he intended to do.
It's not what you say, it's what people hear.
Correct. And that's exactly the point. It's, your actions speak louder than your words, quite frankly. And I have watched you essentially not give a shit and be part of the issue for 2 years. I don't know how I'm supposed to react to this, is more where it came from. And again, I'm all for guys having fun. By all means, do whatever you want. Like I said, if I was a St. Louis Blues fan or a Nashville Predators fan, I'd think it's hysterical.
Yeah.
But I'm
Actually,
not.
do you know what the perfect parallel here is to me? We've already made one reference to Moneyball. It's Jeremy Giambi dancing on the table after a loss, where Billy Bean comes in and smashes the boombox and it's like, is losing fun? Is losing fun? And says no. And then just kind of holds for the silence. That's what losing sounds like. Shut up. Like, don't do those things. Because
like
I
I said,
agree with you.
At
I
least
agree
Miller
with you.
has the decency to be like miserable. You know what I mean?
Right.
He's not smiling and laughing
fair
and doing
enough.
whatever.
Exhausted as I am with his, inability to even come up with a slightly different way to say the same thing, I agree with you. But I agree in the sense that I don't think Trocheck thought he was clowning on Ranger fans. I'm telling you that was the effect of what he did, was to clown on you as a fan. That's what he did. Now, if you're going to put the clown nose on right next to him because you don't realize that, okay, fine. You make your own choices there. But I'm telling you, that is the effect of what he was doing. I don't find it the least bit amusing. I am happy to have fun and have a good time when the team is winning. But when they're that bad, that's what losing sounds like.
Yeah, that's what losing. That's exactly my point. That's what losing sounds like. So that's all. That's all my that was all my argument was. Like, look, again, I think there's something fundamentally fucked at the fact that like Trocheck, Zibanejad, Miller, Sullivan, Drury get to go for gold in the Olympics with what's going on at home. It's just not, I can't wrap my mind around those things. But it's what's happening, and it is what it is. There's nothing we can do. If I felt like they cared a little bit more here, I think it would be different. But I don't know. This is an emotional, response to something on my end. And I still, saying all that, hope the United States wins the gold medal. Chip 23, is anything that happened in the Olympics going to top seeing Tom Wilson get the shit kicked out of him by a Frenchman? No.
Absolutely
I tweeted
not.
about this. The amount of Capitals fans who defend Tom Wilson. I have never met a bigger bunch of fucking babies than Capitals fans. Like, truly children. Tom Wilson is as dirty of a hockey player as they come. I don't care what you say. And it's always like, oh, you didn't know, blah, blah, blah. Fuck, all of you fuck off with this. And seeing him get fucking wrecked and then get mad and the guy's being held back by the refs and try to get in his face again, just no notes. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, the fact that it was like some beer league French guy player just made it all the more delightful.
All the more better. And then Wilson's like, he threw some hits we didn't like. Like, every hit you throw, nobody likes, Tom. It's like, okay, you're there for toughness and you got the shit kicked out of you.
That was, as Chip said, I believe, that photo of him getting pummeled by that French player is now the lock screen on his phone.
I don't even know what the guy's name is. Like, that's
I don't either.
It's perfect. It's so perfect.
Like, honestly, if there's a sale on Olympic jerseys afterward, like, I might find out what his name is and get a French jersey.
Just to have it.
Team France jersey, just to have it with that guy's name on it, just for that role. That was fantastic. Everything about it was great.
Rangers fan born after 1994. Looks like Miller looks better and like he cares more in the Olympics. I am not shocked. You're playing for your country and not a depressing franchise in the United States has played lesser teams so far. Do you still think he is injured, or do you think it is more mental now with him and the Rangers this year? So one thing I think is worth noting here, to be fair to Mr. Miller, he's really not being asked to play the type of game that the Rangers are asking him to play. Miller is like kind of a spare-ish. First of all, I meant to ask you, do you love the extra forward, extra defenseman thing that the Olympics do?
No.
No, I actually don't hate it, but it's funny to me that Trocheck is that guy, which is also interesting because the head coach is the coach of the New York Rangers. Not that that's an incorrect, decision to make, but like Clayton Keller probably should have been playing from the jump. Anyway, it's worth saying that Miller is playing in a lesser role. So he's not being asked to do as much. The team around him is better. Miller doesn't have to be as much of that like driving force. But I do still think he's injured. Unless you're telling me he's just been dogging it in New York for months, I just don't buy that.
Can't we have both? I think he has been injured, and I also think he has been dogging it. I think there are plenty of clips that you can point to that show just an absolute complete lack of effort on Miller's part on the Rangers.
But is he doing that because he's hurt?
I don't think
get what you're going to say is
it's
hurt. One and the same, but I do think look, again, I've defended him probably more than I should, but I don't think it's as simple as like, yeah, this is, it's Miller's not hurt. He's just was waiting to play. I just don't see how that plays out in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah. Just one more point on what Rangers fan Borna from 1994 said here. It looks like Miller's better and like he cares more in the Olympics and that he's not shocked you're playing for your country and not a depressing franchise. I would just like to make the point to that the second part there, that is Miller's job to play for that franchise that he wanted to come to. So I don't know that really exonerates him in any way. And if you're not shocked by it in that sense, I don't know what to tell you. Like, apparently this is where Miller wanted to be. And back to what you were just saying, Joe, I think some of what we have seen from him this year definitely is attributable to him being hurt. Not all of it. I definitely think that he has been phoning it in, which is one of the reasons why I go back to earlier in this episode for all of my thoughts on why I'm just kind of done with JT Miller.
Steve M. Would Igor and Gavrikov accept a trade if it was proposed to them? Look, reportedly, after the letter was written, Chris Drury reached out to all of the people who had no movement clauses and asked them if they'd like to stay or like to go. Igor, Gavrikov, Miller, Mika, Fox all said they wanted to stay. What I think the question needs to be is not, would these guys accept a trade if it was proposed to them? But rather, at what point do we see these guys actually ask out? It would not surprise me if some of these guys wanted out. If at this summer, Mika decides he doesn't want to do this, like, there's no way Gavrikov isn't looking around like, I'm here for another 7 years. Like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? I wonder how much longer Igor Shesterkin wants to stick around for this. We've already heard rumors that, Adam Fox might not be super thrilled about what happened with the Olympic team. And, we don't know how that's going to play out. Like, I do think fundamentally players asking out of New York would change, I think, the way some of this is being viewed, specifically to me. Like, if Gavrikov went to Chris Drury and was like, I want out, it's even worse than I thought it was, and I think it's pretty bad. So I don't think it's a matter of, like, will they accept trades if you propose it to them? I think it's a matter of, like, what happens when they go to Chris Drury and they say they want out?
So this is Chip's theory. In this case, do you kind of want that to happen from a very Leninist perspective of the worse the better, right? So it was with the New York Knicks, it was stars repeatedly spurning the Knicks and not wanting to come play there that got Dolan to recalibrate the way that he approached the management of the New York Knicks. Do you need something like Gavrikov, Fox, Shesterkin, Zibanejad, all being like, I want out of this? And, in their defense of all of it too, it doesn't all necessarily have to just be like, it sucks here, it's so bad, the culture is terrible, Chris Drury is a horrible person, and he stepped and broke all my toys, or whatever it is. It can also be that these are guys in their 30s and they probably want to win a championship before they are done with their professional careers. And if it's looking like the retool or rebuild process with the Rangers is not going to move along at a fast enough clip that they're going to have a serious opportunity to do that in New York, that may be the primary motivation why they ask out. But in a way, Joe, do you want to kind of hope for that if that is the only possible thing that could be a catalyst for a complete reappraisal and reapproaching of the way the Rangers are run by the one person who truly matters here, and that's the owner?
It would kill me for Adam Fox to turn around or Igor Shesterkin and be like, hey, I don't want to be here anymore. To some of the conversations that we had yesterday, not to be too depressing, but if you don't think the Rangers are going to be good in the next 2 years, and I think at this point it's impossible to say that they're going to be with any real conviction, probably for the best you start having those types of conversations. And as I said before, I think Adam Fox is ruthlessly underappreciated by this fan base. Same thing for Igor Shesterkin. Do I think it would be the worst thing in the world if the two of them were like, hey, we don't want to be on the team anymore? No, in part because of what you just said, right? Burn it down, make it even worse. But
You also
also
get a haul back for those players.
Correct. Depending on if they play nice, which, Panarin did not. But like the other piece of the equation here that I do think matters is you are looking at an organization that isn't necessarily going to have a ton of really good, unless things change dramatically and Jason Robertson and / or Brady Tkachuk, or the jury pulls this trade out of nowhere, some of these prospects really blow up into something. Like there is a way you can meth talk yourself into the Rangers being good enough to make the playoffs in 2 or 3 years. That timeline doesn't look great.
Note, if you want the case for that, Chris Feldman had a piece that was published today, Tuesday. There was a 5-year plan for the Rangers trying to look at a reasonable, conceivable way that the Rangers are back to being a serious contender within 5 years. I will confess, I think Chris is a fantastic hockey thinker and a great writer, and I will confess to not being fully persuaded by his argument. But there is a plausibility to it, even if I don't think that it is. There's a bit of taking the best case scenario and making it the most likely scenario, and I don't think that that's what is most likely to play out there. But I commend to anybody listening who wants that take to read that piece, because he does lay out the argument for how he could see the team getting there.
Yeah, again, I just think things are going to get uglier. We have not seen a single. That's not true. Actually, we've seen a couple of games without Artemi Panarin, but we haven't seen a long stretch without Artemi Panarin. And something tells me you're going to see that stretch without JT Miller. You're certainly going to see it without Vincent Trocheck. Things are going to get really, really bad. And some of these guys might just not want to be on the boat anymore. And that's okay. If anything, it's kind of better. I've made the argument before. I will make the argument again. This happening the way it did this year is the best case scenario for the New York Rangers in general. Doesn't allow them to hide behind, oh, we're good but not good enough. This bill was always going to come due. It's just due a little bit sooner than it would have been before. All this stuff is fine. But I do think if you start seeing, if Adam Fox and / or Igor Shesterkin ask out in New York, I think the pitchforks are going to rightfully come out where things are that bad, and it's just whether it's good for the team or not. So to just circle back and answer your question, Steve M., I think the Rangers asked. Right now they want to stick around. I don't know how long that's going to last. Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. Not sure. But Chip 23, whose rebuild goes better, the New York Rangers or Wendy's? I think you made this joke, Eric, actually. Did you not?
I did, and like
And
the
Chip stole
the
this from
tweet,
you.
yeah, the tweet for it is still blowing up right now. The consensus seems to be Wendy's. Like I know the Rangers moved, Panarin for a more established prospect and a couple of conditional picks. Urho Vakanainen for baked potato, and we'll even throw in some chili there. Who says no?
So Wendy's used to be my fast food location of choice back in the
Hmm.
day. There are no Wendy's around me. I have not had Wendy's in forever. And last year, coming back from a conference, I was very drunk from the night before. I had a very early flight. I didn't really think things through. And I got a Wendy's breakfast sandwich and was blown away at how good it was. Now, it
Yeah.
could have been the circumstances of which, I was ingesting this food. I was at an airport, so like nothing about it was good.
Hmm.
I used to really like Wendy's. Since McDonald's went to their like, they've also gone to like Always Fresh, haven't they? Like, burgers, whatever. I like McDonald's. Love Chick-fil-A. Wendy's used to be my thing. It's not when I was a kid. It's not really anymore. I had no idea that they were going through whatever it is they're going through.
Yeah.
Somebody tweeted a photo of like the deals that you can get at Wendy's right now. And it was like buy a full meal and get $1 off a chicken sandwich. It's like, what the fuck is that's a deal? What are you talking about? So I
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
guess we
It
should
seems like it's
we should
pretty bad.
we should probably unpack at least a little bit that there was an announcement from the CEO of Wendy's that they're closing a whole bunch of locations in what he described as a quote rebuilding year for
Not a
the fast
retooling
food
year.
franchise. Not a retooling year, a rebuilding year. Which of course prompts me to ask the question of whose rebuild is going to be done first, Wendy's or the New York Rangers. I am still quite a Wendy's fan. I would take it every day of the week and twice on Sunday over McDonald's. Um, with the exception of, while I do agree, and I've had it completely sober, I think the Wendy's breakfast is actually pretty darn good. I have much more sentimental attachment to McDonald's breakfast. I am just like the rest of McDonald's
A
menu. I am
sausage and
not a
cheese
huge fan
McMuffin
of.
is a sausage and cheese
I'm a
McMuffin is
big
some of the greatest.
bacon, egg, and cheese biscuit guy. I really enjoy that. I had one of those this morning, actually, on my drive down from Grand Rapids to Indianapolis, Indiana.
Oh, must be nice.
I am not a big McDonald's fan. So the radio show that I used to have back in the day, we did a segment each week on fast food, and I grade fast food franchises on what I call the regret quotient, which is how long after eating it do I regret the decision to eat that meal? And by example, Chick-fil-A, the answer is pretty much never.
Yeah,
Like, I
0.
never
Chick-fil-A is
regret
amazing.
Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A is great. McDonald's, it's pretty much instantaneous with the exception of their breakfast.
Interesting.
Anything from like the lunch or dinner menu there is, I just regret instantaneously. The only other one, and this has gotten less true, and this is one of the biggest signs of like problems in the economy for me, is I always thought that the economics of Taco Bell defied the mind, in that you could get like 18 items for like $7.50. It does make more sense when you consider that all of the items at Taco Bell are like the same 6 ingredients in different combinations. But I used to do this thing when I worked in Chicago. We did Taco Bell Tuesdays, where we went and got Taco Bell every Tuesday for lunch. And I did that probably for about 2.5 years. I was done with Taco Bell for quite a while after that. It was more Taco Bell than I think any reasonable human being should consume in that period of time. But I'm still, Wendy's is still a go-to for me, and it's disappointing they don't have any around you. And given the announcement, it sounds like there's probably not going to be one around you anytime in the near future.
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of Taco Bell. Not that like I'm eating there all the time. I really don't eat fast food all that often. Uh, but the last time that I went to Taco Bell, when I was in college, I vividly remember getting like 40 tacos for $3. And
Yes,
now
yes,
it's just so much more expensive.
yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah. Anyway, uh so we're saying Wendy's is going to go better than the Rangers. It's great. Everything is great. State of hockey. Assuming Trocheck goes to the Wild, what is more likely? Guerin overpaying or Drury getting fleeced? Do you think their friendship impacts any potential deals? I would like to believe that Chris Drury knows enough to know he has all the leverage here, that there is no reason for him to make a trade with Bill Guerin that he doesn't like, and that he can hold out for as much as he can. And unlike Artemi Panarin, there does not need to be this like falsely created deadline. There does not need to be this like, my God, we have to do this right now. And I just think that it is, I shouldn't say more likely. Drury better get this right. If you're not getting everything you want from Bill Guerin, don't trade with Bill Guerin. That's just the end of the discussion for me.
Can we get a macro point here that I
Make
think
it.
people are looking at this a little wrong? Trade is, generally speaking, supposed to be a win-win proposition.
Correct.
I am giving you something that you want for in exchange for something that I want, and they are different things. As a general manager in the National Hockey League, you want the trades to be win-win in the sense that you both get something that you are desiring and giving up something you're willing to give up to get that thing that you are desiring. If you are a GM, and maybe this is a problem with Chris Drury, for all the criticisms of him, I don't know that this is necessarily one of them that I see having a ton of validity. I don't know that you want to be that GM that is always trying to extract, a win, quote unquote, in the trade from the perspective of, the kind of the meme of I give you my trash and you give me your best player. Because
Can I interrupt you for a second?
Let me finish. You want those other general managers to want to come back and do business with you in the future. And part of that is them not feeling like you're fleecing them and you not feeling like they are fleecing you. You want this to be an exchange with some equilibrium. So I think people are looking at this a little wrong. Now, within that context, the return for Trocheck needs to be significant because of what the market will bear. But I think looking at it from the perspective of wanting a GM to just constantly be ripping the heart out of the people that they're trading with is the wrong way to think about this.
Yeah, I do think that matters more than maybe you were letting on. Where Chris Drury is like, I'm going to bully my way through every agreement, actually does hurt. Look, the NHL is an old boys club. Most general managers are retreads from somewhere. So if you have this reputation of somebody that's like, I don't want to fucking deal with this guy, it could be a problem. And I do think that some of this is a little bit more. Look, you're right, ultimately, that both Chris Drury and Bill Guerin are going to be looking for the best deal that they can possibly get. Drury is going to try to get as much as possible. Guerin is going to be trying to give as little as possible. It's just kind of the way that this works. But the other piece of this is, to your point, it's not so much that Chris Drury needs to win. It is that the New York Rangers have potentially the biggest trade chip on the market, if not the biggest trade chip on the market. And that comes at a cost. So you're right in that, hey, they're friends and whatever, and let them see what they say and yada, yada, yada. Cool. All that's great. I need to get the freight because I am trading you a premier player in the trade block right now, on the trade block right now.
The fit, what I would say is, to quote another movie that I know you and I both love, we are selling to willing buyers at the prevailing market price. And the
so that
prevailing market
we
price
may
may
survive.
survive. The prevailing market price for Vincent Trocheck right now is high because of the limit in how many centers are available on the market, because of his contract, because of the limited trade protection that he has. So I don't want anyone to take from the point that I was just making that, Charlie Strammel and a couple of conditional picks is a good return for Vincent Trocheck. He should command a price, but it should be the kind of thing where, we shouldn't look at it from the perspective of, if it is, Yurov and Strammel and a couple of conditional picks. It was like,
That'd be an
oh,
insane return.
it would be, but like, it needs to be something where both of these GMs need to feel that they got what they needed out of the deal, because you want those future transactions to continue to happen. And you, as you pointed out, don't want to end up in a position where you're that guy that nobody wants to deal with because you're always trying in every trade to rip the heart out of the other guy. That's not the way that these things are supposed to work, nor is it how you should want them to work.
Can I add one other point to this, though?
Yes.
Knowing the relationship that Guerin and Drury have, if he's going to Minnesota, the return has to be crazy. Or else I am suspicious that this is like a whatever type deal, under the table deal. Not even that it just, there's too much smoke here. And like, there's no
Drury's just
way
not in a
Minnesota
position
is
for
the
that,
only
though.
team. Right. There's no way Minnesota's the only team that's interested.
I think if this is one of those like friendship extends and means something here, the way that it has to extend, I think, is, from some grace from Guerin to Drury here, understanding that he really needs to bring something significant back for the best trade chip that he has. So the version of Guerin doing him a solid is to give him perhaps like a return plus whatever we may be thinking. Maybe you're looking at it as a slight overpay for that player, but also from Guerin's perspective, he's, this is I'm going for it season. He just acquired Quinn Hughes. The biggest concern about Minnesota as a trading partner, and writers at the Banner have pointed this out, is they have depleted their asset pool because they traded for Quinn Hughes. So it may not even be the case. We're going to have a piece going up tomorrow. It will be up when you're listening to this prior day, Wednesday, of Chip proposing a Trocheck trade to the Montreal Canadiens. That frankly may make much more sense than a trade to the Minnesota Wild. So I don't know. We will see.
That's my point, is like, I need a little bit more smoke out there for other things. It should not be Minnesota, or like the fact that we haven't heard any other names. I think Vince had mentioned that maybe Carolina and
Carolina's been
Detroit was
mentioned.
sniffing around.
Detroit has mentioned.
No, I need more. Like, it can't just be this, like, oh, he's obviously going to Minnesota. Because to your point, I'm not necessarily in love with a ton of what Minnesota has. And the thing that I like the most in Yurov, they didn't trade for Quinn Hughes. So they're not trading it for Vincent Trocheck, you would think.
It may be, right? Like, it may be the circumstance where, if this really is a year that they feel that they are going all in, then that may be the only thing that they have left to play if they view going all in as necessitating a guy like Vincent Trocheck as a matured NHL veteran player, playoff performer, the kind of guy that they need. They may have to give up Yurov because he's the only guy that they really have left in that sense to really make that kind of a trade. But to the point that you and I keep making, right? If it's Strammel and a couple of picks, then, we burn it all down, because like you and I are going to be completely out on Drury. That's not going to be sufficient there. I think the reason that you haven't gotten that much smoke yet is because so much of the smoke around Panarin and all of the teams back and forth that we were hearing about that was because of the general knowledge that he was going to be traded before the Olympics. Whereas we're going to be waiting for, the end of the Olympics here, the teams to come back and the rosters to unfreeze. Between then and the trade deadline, I think we will get more of those smoke from other teams being reported. I have a hard time imagining that somebody like Trocheck, we're not going to get a lot more rumor milling around.
It's the God's ears. Holy shit, we've been doing this over an hour and a half. You guys are truly lucky. Uh, no, I'm not joking at all. Nicole Vitale asked this question 9 seconds ago.
Beautiful.
Drury should obviously be getting the best return available for Trocheck, but do you worry about this concern with not burning more bridges and how he handles stuff? Everything states Trocheck prefers to stay east. Drury better not take a lesser deal to help out Trocheck. If it is not on his no trade and it's a good deal, just do it. Nicole, you are brilliant. Your
Yes,
timing could not be
100%.
better. This actually brings up a really good point in that I think you and I have praised Drury for the Carson Soucy deal, for being a little bit of a lighter touch, to Artemi Panarin for trading him the way that he did. Again, not a ton of control there.
Yeah,
That
didn't have a ton of choice
goodwill
with Panarin, but
ends, correct. It ends at Panarin. Moving forward, everybody that you trade, specifically Trocheck, I don't give a shit. You are getting the best deal possible.
I thought I made this point last week that you can do the solids to players in those low leverage situations because Carson Soucy, again, if you drove a really hard bargain, right? Like, maybe you get a slightly higher draft pick than the one that you got from the Islanders, but you do him a solid by just sending him over to the island. And with Panarin, at the end of the day, it was going to be wherever Panarin wanted to go. So, you are, of course, accommodating what that player is asking for because that player holds all the cards. Those are low leverage situations in that sense. Like the squeeze, the juice for the squeeze of driving hard bargains there was just not going to be worth it. But you and Nicole are absolutely correct that, that's a completely different circumstance when it comes to Trocheck. That's your most valuable trade chip. You got to get the best possible deal to the extent, right? If it is a circumstance, and we talked about this a little bit with Soucy, if it is a circumstance where the team offering the best return, bar none, is the New York Islanders, send him to the New York Islanders.
Yeah,
I
that's
have
where he goes.
absolutely no problems whatsoever with sending him in the same division, with sending him to a rival. None of that bothers me at all. This is just a circumstance where you have to take the best return wherever you find it.
Correct. That's it. That's it. That is the be all end all of where we are. You cannot screw around with Trocheck. L-Man asks, is there another sucker organization willing to trade a top 10 pick to the Rangers in this year's draft, i.e. replicate the Stepan and Ronta trade for the 2017 7th overall pick in D'Angelo, which could have been a great trade if they made the right pick? If so, should this be an organizational top priority? If it were possible, I think it would be an organizational top priority. I don't know of anyone, and I know, things cooled a little bit with Gavin McKenna, but it's very clear that he's still the consensus number 1 overall pick. I don't know of anybody in the lottery that's trading those types of picks. I think it speaks volumes, that the Los Angeles Kings refuse to trade the first round pick, from what I can gather, that they'd rather trade their top prospect just because they may not make the playoffs and that may fall into a top 5, selection. So if that trade existed, take it. I just don't see it.
The only team with an outside shot at being that high up in the draft at the end of the day that I could see being interested in acquiring, some of the assets the Rangers have and having just surrendered. But actually, I don't think they have a first round pick. I would say Florida. Florida's on the outside looking in right now. But I don't think they have a first round pick in this draft to trade, if memory
I don't
serves.
think they do either. This is the other piece here, which is, what are you trading? Like, if Braden Schneider can get you that return on the draft floor, by all means, do that. That's great. Cool. Good for you. I don't know what else would be out there. So
I'm looking through the reverse order of points percentage. I mean, the Canucks are the worst team in the league right now. They're not trading their first round pick. The Blues aren't. Calgary isn't. Winnipeg isn't. They're too far outside. Chicago isn't. The Devils, I mean, they're such a dumpster fire. I don't know that there's enough desperation and hopium that you could have going on there that they would be willing to move it. And again, I'm only speaking out of I don't even know that they have these draft picks. The Sharks aren't. Again, Florida is the only one I can think, and they're 22nd in the league right now. So that's a pretty outside shot at moving all the way up that high. So I don't know. I don't really see the opportunity for it.
Yeah, I don't think that trade is going to be out there for the Rangers. But if you could find somebody to do it, sure. I mean,
the Chicago Blackhawks have the Panthers' first-round pick in this draft.
For Seth Jones.
Yeah, for that trade.
Got it.
Yeah.
Eric, I think that's it. An hour and 40 minutes. Wow. What else you want to talk
I'm
about?
going to extend it just a couple minutes because I wanted to acknowledge we skipped a question last week that wasn't really a question, but since people are going to be watching the conclusion of the Olympics, I do want to give it a shout out from Cronus from the question thread last week. He began by asking, what illicit activities was Joe doing in the DR? Last week, I provided a delicious cocktail suggestion following your agreement on us Ranger fans drinking. Here's another one fitting for this week. This isn't one that I've had in a long time, but it fits too well. It's an Americano. No, not the coffee drink. This is a cocktail invented by Gaspare Campari in Milan in the 1860s. The recipe is 1.5 ounces of Campari, 1.5 ounces of sweet vermouth, 3 ounces of club soda, garnish with an orange or a lemon slice. Drink it while you hopefully watch the United States win a gold medal. And Joe and I have to argue that despite them winning a gold medal, they still should have had Jason Robertson and Cole Caulfield and Adam Fox on the team. Cheers to that.
BlueshirtBandwidth.com. $85 a year gets you all your ad-free access to the New York Rangers. Facebook.com/BlueShirtBanter. YouTube.com/BlueShirtBanter. Spotify, iTunes. Just like us. Leave 5 stars. Subscribe. Join us. $85 a year ad-free access to everything. $40 a year for the Discord tier / some commenting opportunities on some stories, including the question thread. Eric, anything you'd like to end with on the Filip Chytil episode?
No, that's it. If I had the ingredients and I was not in a hotel room in Indianapolis, I would go make that drink right now, but maybe I'll make it when I get home tomorrow.
You heard it here, folks. Eric is a whale. Talk to you next week. Bye for now.